Well, a lot of rain in the night. Still raining slightly now. Good morning, world. Nice fresh morning. Things are alive with the rain we just had. Kids are getting ready to go to school. Well, some of them are on their way. We were going to go into, I'm off today, so we were going to go into one of the cities today. But I think based on the weather we're not. I think Richie's going to make some Scotch eggs. So we'll do a session on Scotch eggs and probably some more pork pies as well. Very exaggerating as always, Simon, on the pork pies, but pork pies are a passion for me. Using lard for the pastry and how to enhance the meat, how to season the meat, how to put the jelly into the pork pie, the time frame it takes to make a pork pie, from especially when you want to serve them cold at the end, you know, so you've got to follow a certain sequence from cooking the pork pie to letting it cool down to then putting the jelly into the pork pie as well. Pork pie is obviously an old English recipe, and one of the most famous being Melton Mowbray. For those of you who may not know, pork pies originally came from the 14th century, and they weren't pies then. They were the pork that they were surrounded in a pastry to preserve meat. So the meat was being preserved. The pastry wasn't intended for eating at that point in time. It only became a crust, if you like, a pie, during the early Victorian time, when pork pies were being eaten in the true sense as how we know them today. So Scotch eggs, because a lot of people also ask about Scotch eggs. What came first, pork pies or Scotch eggs? Well, the original program of Scotch eggs came again in early Victorian times. Scotch eggs, again, a snack on the go, or a lunch or food on the go, as it were. But they were designed and made and put together in one of our famous old English grocers, Fortnum and Mason. They are the original recipe owners of the Scotch egg. You know, the egg surrounded with the savoury mince and breadcrumbs. So Scotch eggs originate from Fortnum and Mason. As I said, pork pies originated long before that, when they were used in the 14th century, when they were used as a means to preserve meat when it's being transported, known as coffins in those days. I have an interest in food generally from around the world. It's part of the enhancement of understanding different cultures. So living outside the UK is when I tend to have more interest on food from the UK. So you'll always find me creating interest in English food when I'm in a foreign country, because I used to do this in South Africa. I used to do this in the Middle East as well when I lived there. But of course, I also still have the interest and desire for food created in countries I'm living in and staying. So apart from English food, we'll be talking about the local dishes here in the Philippines as well. The sound of that rain pitter-pattering on the tin roof of our rest house. Trying to film with these guys around is just impossible. Come on. Come on. Whitey and Poopy. Yeah. With Richie now, just saying, what time's breakfast? Talking about Scotch eggs and pork pies. No, stop it. I sort my dogs out here. Painful. Yeah, another great favourite, British favourite, food-wise, is bangers and mash. And I've got a lot of my old boarding school friends who, from China and from all over the world actually. At my school, I went to school in North Wales, boarding school. And one of the favourites on the menu at school was bangers and mash for lunch or for tea sometimes. I don't know if if we really loved it then or if we were fooled by it, but it is a traditional food that dates back in the UK to the beginning of the 20th century, bangers and mash. Now the origins of bangers being sausages, usually pork sausages, but sometimes beef sausages as well. So that was the bangers, the sausages, and then the mash was the creamy mashed potato, and that would be accompanied with usually peas, marrowfat peas, probably that's the soaked processed peas, and an onion gravy. So gravy with onions in it. That was covered. So it was covered in gravy, the mash and the bangers, the sausages. And that was how it was served. Again, originally prepared as a meal that could serve everybody. Origins from the beginning of the century, before the First World War, and it was known as bangers because of the rationing that happened and the shortage of meat that would happen after both the First World War and the Second World War. So sausages to ensure a filling, water and various other oats and other things were put in to make the sausages various forms of meal. So you were limited on meat, so you'd mix the sausage meat up with other stuff to make the filling. And when you fried these in a frying pan, they would bang, they would pop. And that's the origin of the banger, why it was called a banger, because these things would pop in the pan in the early days. I mean, this is something my grandmother would tell me, and I looked it up as well, and she was right. That's why they were called bangers, for those of you who don't know. Very traditional though, bangers and mash, and it's something else we're going to be doing here in the next few days. As you may or may not remember, if you go back on one of the early videos and go on Facebook, you'll note when Richie was making pork sausages here as well. She got the skins from the market. You can buy the skins to make sausages and make longanisa. So longanisa skins, you can use them also for making pork sausages as well. So Richie will make longanisa, which is a sweet Filipino sausage, which you can buy and it can be tomato flavored pork or garlic flavored pork, etc. Usually quite fairly sweet, the Filipino taste for these longanisas. But Richie would buy the skins and should also make pork sausages as well. So again, we have pork sausages once in a while. If we're good, if I'm a good boy, I get some pork sausages made as well. Now the idea of all these recipes that we're putting together in the British recipe book for food in the Philippines is for hosting. So when we do start to eventually host British families, British expats coming to our neighbourhood in our Airbnb, we will give people also a choice of eating Filipino or eating English as well. So the English food will become part of the menu, as will the Filipino food, and get a combination of both. I think food origins are very important and make it make anything significantly real. What are you doing, Whitey? Gosh, these dogs. I deliberately keep mine in the house up there because I know if they come down here, there's going to be a riot going on. But I don't anticipate. I've got one in every corner. Look at this. Let me just show you. See, behind me in this corner, I have McGill. Over in this corner, we got Brownie. And right over in this corner, we have Whitey. No peace for the wicked, as they say. Rain will be good for the trees and good for Nanai's bougainvillea. Yeah, other favourites that we're going to do as well will be a traditional English steak and kidney pie. We do cottage pie as well, of course. We're showing you a cottage pie fairly recently. Steak and kidney. It's getting the right kind of beef and obviously the right kind of kidneys for that. But we've got a sauce. Beef is not the best here. You know, I know people love their steaks. They're okay. Let me put it that way. I think the beef being shipped in is okay. The Australian beef. You go to somewhere in Manila and go to Ruston's or something like that. Ruston's. You can get pretty good beef. I'm disappointed in the beef in the cash and carry here. SNR, is it? Yeah, it's there. Some American beef. There's Australian beef. Butchering meat here is not the best. I'm also starting to get hungry talking about all this meat, so I think I'm better go out and find out what we're going to have for breakfast or brunch now, because time is going on. Time is moving on. Maybe go and find my good lady and see if she wants me to do the cooking. The main reason was to come down here and capture the rain, which I've done now, so let's just go back through the rain, back to the top. And we can dogs are left there a bit bewildered. Where's he gone in the rain? Being English, we're used to rain, so we don't mind getting wet. Being wet is part of being English. You don't worry about rain. We built our nation in the rain. We had no choice. Good morning. It's Mrs. Bo Peep in the dark.
Huh?
I said it's Mrs. Bo Peep in the dark. Good morning.
Good morning.